Yes. Yes, this is the mindness at the mystery font. This is not a movie. 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 It will be all right. This is not a movie. Levels coming to some semblance of, I think so. Time to make some coffee. Lumina radiate. From the mystery font. 42 in Minneapolis, Minnesota. That's right, Scoop Troop. Keep that Darvo card handy. It is useful every day these days. That's right. Sometimes it may pop up just to keep us cognizant that the falsehood can say hello from the strangest places, and that the use of denial and attack to reverse victim and offender might be at hand. Who is the falsehood? I was crying in my sleep when I thought about how the President of the United States has called for the identity of the pernicious falsehood. Will we ever know? Will we ever know the identity of the falsehood? Who could it be? That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight's mystery font includes a particle of the falsehood, the stunning tale in real time of the inability to hear an iceberg telling you, I'll keep you in suspense. I'll keep you in suspense. I'll keep you in suspense. Unable to come out of fight or flight or freeze, to calm down enough, and yet maybe actually able, maybe always able to find a way to calm down and assess who has cast a web of hokum, normalizing the idea that lying is smart. Who has breached a crack through space and time into which hate triumphs as a new kind of strange night, impenetrable. Maybe it's that same old white light, that same old, no, not white light. I mean white fire light. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's always been it. Maybe it's never been a lie. What exactly did he crack open? And what exactly is coming through the breach? Ladies and gentlemen, siblings of all ages, tonight's presentation is not easy to listen to. It's just where we are. We are in an abusive relationship. Shocking boundary violations that crack open new wounds like they're the first wound and make us forget that it wasn't always like this. Turn into a cycle. Any one of the falsehoods, any one of the numerous falsehoods that come to your mind, if we are not rushed from that falsehood to put out the fire on a neighbor's roof, yet again, lit by the pernicious falsehood and with their calling card intact, if we ever simply drill down, or are not terrified to do so. After all, anyone who drills down on a lie, so-called, if there be under the sun any lie that Donald Trump has ever told, it is difficult to drill down upon in public, I would imagine, for most people. In part because the very posing of the idea that there is something suspect to Donald Trump's behavior or a decision or what he stands for, not in a half hour or a day or a week, but instantly, is called derangement. The moment someone wants to address a matter of moment, a specific factual item, or refer to a moment when an actual act on video happened, and ask Donald Trump, why did you do that? Why did you say that? To hold someone to account. We are ever moved on from holding someone to account. We are ever informed of more musical chairs where he may have been sitting in the room at all times. The shell game only has 3 cards. We are in an abusive relationship. We are in an abusive relationship. We are all in an individual abusive relationship with the same person. All of us. And with the coterie of empowered Ku Klux Klan cowards and violent thugs who are calling for, I would say, help, a cry for help. But some would call that a cry of war. And while I think it's time for our society to hear the Clay Higgins of the world and the Donald Trumps of the world as the people who are deranged. People who jump to lynch mob brain syndrome language, trying to erupt and destroy executive function, are trying to spread absolute collapse of executive function at a personal, nationwide, and systemic level. And since we are looking at the chief executive And we have demonstrative proof of not just an inability of executive function at multiple levels and degradation and potential dementia and atrophy, but willingness to sow a degraded delivery of executive function in office and promulgate that by example. We are being defiled and degraded. It's not normal for someone to insult persons you're talking to. It's not normal for it to happen once. And it's a disaster if it continues and someone doesn't stand up to Biff. It's time to say no to the aggressive, violent man who won't leave, and create boundaries of steel for the boy who wants to have both be he is the person who said, remove the loophole. If you don't like the naughty little tax loophole that I took, maybe it's bad, but I'm smart to use it. So you should have gotten rid of it, Hillary. Why don't you just get rid of that? And then I'll obey. But while it's there, I'm smart to use it. I'm a smart person. I'm going to do that. He is, meanwhile, the same person who said, in order to protect you, I need to be able to do anything and everything, even the worst things, and not be ever held accountable or punished. Absolute authority and absolute immunity. And indeed, whatever one might call it, what seems like a sleeper cell of the Confederacy stoking and gathering within the Supreme Court. After Mitch McConnell raised the white card silently above his head and said to Obama, "You shall not pass as a white president. You don't get to declare a Supreme Court justice. I won't say it out loud. I'll just cast this cloud and stand here out loud. And the light bouncing off my forehead is just that bright. It's not that I'm holding an iridescent, white, blinding card. It's not that I'm holding the white card for everybody to see. I'm not holding the white card like a massive fluorescent razor above a president who is probably not wanting to come across like a delegitimized, angry black man when he is indeed under assault, and the vote that at that time was given him by the populace for essentially a year still was robbed from America in the same way that Donald Trump stole and essentially corrupted, broke his oath, the watch. He asked for the watch to be the one who presides. Whether you are presiding over the party you asked everyone to come to, or you happen to be the boss where you called everyone to be, or maybe even you are the president of the country, or maybe even you are the president of the country and it happens to be colloquial and widely known and called the most powerful nation in the world. If you are more the president of anything in any large gathering that has ever happened with any more targeted power, and if you if he did not indeed tell us with Rudy Giuliani that he had proof and lure us there, lure people there, without then sating anyone with proof, and yet declaring something was being withheld, but not by him. Whether or not he means to do it, this is loading a gun and throwing it into a crowd and saying, "Get them." It doesn't matter if he meant to do January 6th or he didn't mean to do January 6th, because those are the only two ends of a spectrum, of a line between volition to lure people to sedition and treason and stopping democracy, or that he accidentally did something that essentially erupted that kind of havoc. Either one of those options is disqualifying. You don't need the 14th Amendment to tell you that it is the 14th Amendment, and you don't simply walk through it and declare to networks who are not government institutions that you are running for office. He told us how he would do it. He told us how he would do it. He told us how he would do it. He said, "I'll keep you in suspense." And at that moment, just like publishing Project 2025, at that moment he was calling his shot. He threatened everyone in America and on Earth in that debate. That was an existential threat to all of us and to our place in the habitat. Because now we are distracted from removing glyphosate from our food. We are distracted from making sure that children are safe in our communities. We're distracted from making sure that our habitat is not collapsing, or at least collapsing to us. We're distracted from taking care of people who are being hoodwinked by disinformation and misinformation and the exponential weaponization of it. And at a time, again, distracted, we are at a time when it is being folded into the fabric, whatever lies and errors and, oh, they're not the same as us, strange little notes and quirks and biases being confirmed that are often wrong, most often wrong, or most often are things that should not be encoded into algorithms. These things are being folded in now. If we want to know what's in our food, and we want to not see the collapse and targeting of people who want to interact with it, with cancer, if we want to be able to know anything like the verity, we have to protect fact and truth. And the breach is of falsehood, of using lies. Because when a leader hears that something is coming, they tell us. They give us some information or know what to do to make sure that we're safe. They don't put it in their pocket and tell us instructions that endanger us and better how the aftermath plays out for them. But that is what has happened numerous times. The one who presides, Colonel Jessup would say, should be able to handle the truth. If you can't handle the truth or are not willing to handle it, you shouldn't be in the office. And if you're simply going to use it to increase your portfolio or to distract a nation about a bit of cocaine use of someone's son, while an actual seditioner's son is being paid $3 billion. We are in strewn hokum. And so the ability to assess when we are being lied to and to talk to one another about it means finding a way to calm down. Because if we are not in an abusive relationship with someone who has dawned in a way that doesn't happen very much over centuries, if we are not in the presence of the villain known as the FalseHood, then I don't know what story I'm telling. Who knows what evil lies in the heart of mendacity? The shadow below the nose of a doubting falsehood eventually might grow a square shadow of a mustache. Who is the falsehood? Who has donned an age of permuting hokum and normalized lies, weaponized to disguise? Who can cloud people's minds so they cannot see him? Who? Ladies and gentlemen, the falsehood will continue. But are you aware of Goodyear with the lightsaber tread? This lightsaber tread is really ridiculous and amazing. It's really ridiculous and amazing. Can I tell you one more time again? It's ridiculous and amazing. And what I mean by that is that I don't know how I get there so safe, so fast, but so smooth. That's Goodyear with the lightsaber tread. Who knows? Who knows what evil lies in the locker room where someone says you can just grab them by the crotch because you're a star. They'll just let you do it. We all know because we heard him say it and we shrugged. Or in fact, we hoped it would stop. We hoped it was just an error. But all of these are shocking boundary violations. Shocking boundary violations. Like Elon Musk telling his wife on the dance floor during their first dance, I wear the pants in this relationship. Shocking boundary violations meant to destabilize and coerce control, especially when one has gained a position of confidence or trust. It unleashes a cycle, and we are all experiencing betrayal trauma. Shocking boundary violations, like telling us that he can grab our private parts and take them to his home because he declassified them with his mind, And when months and months later, documents so insanely secret, beyond anything anyone has walked away with or stolen, sitting in his bedroom, we will never know how much has been endangered or who has died because of crime specific to just the theft of those documents, and what there still is gone or sold or hidden. That alone. But like Monty Burns, with all of the diseases holding him from any one of them killing him, somehow shocking boundary violation after shocking boundary violation, after degrading thing said to you, after another degrading thing said to you, after another degrading thing said about your wife, he will shock people and degrade them and attack until they don't want to try to defend themselves, and make us hope he just goes away. And so we appease him. We have been at our Sudetenland moment for years, and it's crunch time coming. We have submitted, and the way to get out of the chains of submission are to recognize they are around us. It's really just our decision to say no. It's really not even acceptable that we are entertaining someone who sang an anthem and recorded it as if he had already won the insanity of absolute immunity. We are dealing with someone wielding cult of personality. The weapon is simply possibility and technology. The user is one who will exploit what comes before them for them above other people. And sometimes twist things enough to tell us enough of the truth to not have to remember too much of a lie. Because he didn't entirely lie when he told us that we would get tired of winning. But he wasn't talking about winning. He was talking about he would continue to be a force of simple, blunt, apocalyptic conquest, and break and harm and violate and trump anything. His Eucharist is breaking and being accepted as having broken it. His Eucharist is giving someone an impossible to believe or swallow idea and watching you swallow it. QAnon is exactly the kind of Eucharist that he thrives on. The more apeshit, the better, because he wants to walk on water, if only in the minds of people that will swear that they know. We're dealing with an abusive relationship of someone who should not be allowed to ramble on the microphone, because the spell is that they should be allowed to ramble on the microphone, because the one thing he is saying is, I have absolute authority. I have absolute authority. I have absolute authority. It is actually the only thing he ever says. Every and anything, whether it shows up as Darvo or the greatest hits, is all about positioning himself as being the one to whom we are listening and giving deference and waiting for either the better idea or for him to remember, or for him to interrupt himself with the rest of the story, or to weave in, because he has absolute authority. He is the best and the ultimate and the chosen one. That is what every gesture, every defiling thing that he does says, because he knows they're bad. He knows it's bad to meet someone who is elderly like him and to yank their arm to make them fall, to embarrass them, because they won't fight back in embarrassment and will look foolish and weak. Shocking boundary violations meant to coerce, so people do not challenge him and fight back, and simply do not say no about anything. Such as, no, your crowd was smaller. We're looking at the photograph. Why push a provable lie simply to be able to push a provable lie? We have been groomed and we have submitted. That is not the end. That is a breath when we can now wake. Just like Sesame Street told us, and just like Mr. Rogers told us, and echoed of many of humanity's prophets, diversity and equity and inclusion and being woke to the needs of our neighbors and ourselves and our community are basic points of human kindness and sacred. But we are amidst permuting hokum that does want to disable our connection to habitat and to human empathy. And so for your community and your mind and your family, you ask yourself, how do we do it? How do we perceive? How do we know what tells us when someone is speaking honestly, and whether the room or the conversation is still on a germane task at all? Do the adults have the room? And if not, Mr. Rogers can help and ask us to look for the helpers, saying wise things like who can help and who needs help. That amidst a fog of hocus pocus and defiled podium, we have time to see that the breach is cut with a shard of white fire hate. It is part of the particle of manifest destiny, and it is bigoted and hateful. And humanity can't abide it. We need to hear the cries of people like Kevin Roberts and Stephen Miller, M, and Steve Bannon. We need to hear the cries of these people as the truly insane and frankly illegal summonings to sedition and havoc that they are. Lynch mob brain syndrome is not something to foster. It's not something to foster in any manner at all, because we know what happens when people lose executive function. And those of us who have any idea about what trauma does, not only do soldiers gain PTSD, but people in all kinds of scenarios who may or may not have served, we understand what post-traumatic stress disorder is. And the multiplicity of constant intersectionality. If there is a total rupture of goodwill to build together, we really can be lost and farmed. And distracted, if only to be malleable, whether or not Donald Trump actually bears absolute racist and bigoted, homophobic, etc. malice. Whether or not he simply hates everyone who is not a white cis male or whatever it is that floats his boat, I think it is conquest. I think it's making good on his name, that he is a transcendence that gets to shit on the carpet that mommy made from grandma's blanket, and it's irreplaceable, and now we hang that up on the wall because it's the most beautiful thing Donnie ever did. It's to totally defile and destroy and yet be celebrated. That's why someone asks for the right to destroy something in order to be able to protect it. It truly may be the most insane thing that a president has said and underlined repeatedly. The idea that he would need to do horrible, terrible things in order to protect democracy. He's called for the right essentially to do anything and hurt anyone, and to film it, and ask Alex Jones to live across the street from you talking about it with your neighbors. We don't really have a handle on this, which is to say we have not established a boundary. And those are not the grounds under which we say, sure, come on back and run. He's coming back or else. And we should remember that he did tell us he would keep us in suspense. And then he did. And admitting that what happened on January 6th was bad, he then stopped seeming to feel that way and sang with the not political prisoners, but actual seditioners, trying to redefine traitorous crime and sabotage, his own bloody sabotage. It was saying that he had a lure, crying wolf and promising the proof, and it all being minted really upon believing in him and having confidence in him. We never said, hey, where's that bit of cloth you said had the wolf's tooth and the blood? You said you had that bit of the, can we say, oh, yes, well, you know, it's me. I'm really why you're here. And by that point, it is minted that it is simply a magical thinking broth that everyone is soaking in. That Madge is pouring lynch mob brain syndrome in to every day. And we are soaking in a syndrome of a loss of executive function so that Nellie Olson can scream at us with the voice of Stephen Miller or Sarah Huckabee Sanders or Ron DeSantis or Tucker Carlson or Elon Musk. That Nellie Olson points at someone and says them, and we simply freeze. Because our version of when they came for, and our version of just following orders is just keeping our job or just making it through this meeting. And it's not that we all need to get fired, but how do we level up together to support one another to come out of freeze? Because we're looking at an iceberg. When someone tells you, I'm coming for your crotch, and we say, that's a terrible thing to say, and he says, oh, I just say it with some people. It's no big deal. Don't worry about it. We have submitted. Instead of someone saying, no, you ridiculous, disgusting cad, and shutting off the microphone, we're afraid to say no. And it's about strange, gentle moments, because after attacking Georgia election workers who are by some miracle still alive, he can walk onto a daytime talk show and have them not mention that there are people trying not to commit suicide because they are being in real time targeted by him, acting as if he's just a character on a show in those terrible bad things. And we're not plugged into the idea of the incredible havoc we are going through and ignoring. We know we're not able to steward what's happening with our habitat because we are distracted by brown shirts. We're distracted because our friends and neighbors or our daughters or we are trying to figure out how to get out of our state or out of our country before our status prevents us from saving our own life or accessing health care. We are in an abusive relationship with someone who is in an abusive relationship with everyone. We have to say no. We have to recognize that the constant turn to what will this do for him and is this good for Donald Trump is a massively toxic program. We are not dealing with an election that is in any way normal. We are dealing with to be continued. We are dealing with the very scrap of continuing democratic elections at all. We are at to be continued. I'm going to make coffee now. We are at to be continued. Really, every day is to be continued. That this nation built of, for, and by the people should not vanish from the earth. To be continued. What is it that we want to continue? And what do we find our own ways to hold dear and celebrate and parse from its relationship to violence or oppression, other than to help take apart and understand and process our American apartheid? Because the tide is real, and we are not newly dealing with abusive relationship. The permuting hokum rendered and breached and exponentially exploited by the FalseHood and their coterie is not so massive an innovation, but it is a massive field of hokum that we can avert. Because sometimes sabotage does happen, and sometimes it spreads. And if we see a cloud growing, we might want to do something instead of not do something instead. We are at To Be Continued, and this is the mystery font. It seems, good golly, it seems I'm having an episode. I think I have to be honest. It seems I'm having just a bit of an episode of mystery font. 42. Ope Intuit. This happens from time to time. It's abnormal, but entirely normal and efficacious. And I'm just tuning in here. Indeed, yes, we are the mindness. I am confirming I'm not far off. We are indeed the mindness. This is the mindness at the mystery font. Yes. Oh, good gracious. Good gracious. Here we are, at the intersection of the meaning of life and free humanity in Minneapolis, Minnesota, North Minneapolis. This is the mystery font. And let us bring in something musical. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day in the neighborhood. Radio science brain. From all minds to all minds, just in time, these are not tines. Well, they're tines, but not forks, or at least not mine. But I'll fork with that if I might be not spork or fat or splat or cat or mad or bad or really anything but let's have had. Let's just not be bad. Let's not be okay. I think let's just be kind of good, or kind and good, or what's good, what should, what's neighborhood, what's neighborhood, what's neighborhood, what's neighborhood. What is neighborhood? Mystery. Font. Mystery. Font. 42. Ope Intuit. It's not an institute, except that it is similar. It's an Intuit. And this program is part of it. It is part invitation. It is part gentle tantrum and hopeful exaltation. I'm going to make that coffee I keep talking about. I can't stop talking about that coffee, that coffee. It's on my mind. I keep talking about that coffee. See, there I go again. It keeps happening. And so, it must be. It seems it's meant to be, and I can't get in the way of that. I just have to stop getting in the way. And there we are. Let's see. Oh gosh. Gosh and golly. How about, there we are. Maybe resizing in real time. There we are. I think that works. That's fine. That's fine. Very nice. Very nice. Very hot. Very hot. Very hot. And coffee rich enough to be served in only, the finest Folgers crystals. Here we are. Mystery font 42, Ope Intuit. I wonder what that means. At any rate, at the intersection of free humanity and the meaning of life, it is Mystery font 42, Ope Intuit. Of the myriad mystery fonts scattered across the globe and elsewhere, certainly underneath the crust, it's not all of us or bust, it's simply omnibus. And thus, it is an episode happening to all of us. Is that... It is sort of a sound of, like, waves, kind of. I keep having that sound happening. I keep hearing, that keeps happening. I think it's burgles. I think that the closer or the longer the iceberg is headed towards the vector it was aimed at, and that forecasts tell us it is successfully going to be delivered to, unless other things, other people, other forces intercede. How do we prepare? How do we apprehend? Prehension towards apprehension. We have hension. We are hensile. We have the ability to intellectually grasp, to see something and say, what is that? And at least mentally apprehend. In order to see, do we need to otherwise apprehend? Or at least take advance action of this or that. And I know we all remember all the conversations we had when when Osama bin Laden, do you remember when Osama bin Laden released the 911 pages called The Project? And we just thought, oh, it's Project 9/11. Project 9/11. And for years, nobody really took it seriously. But do you remember? He actually wrote it all down. He wrote down 911 pages of what he was going to do and kind of said it all. And there was also a lot of language that people at the time, including him, called aspirational. But it's strange, you know? And to think that Adolf Hitler actually wrote down his plan to make a fool out of Chamberlain. Apparently, he sent a letter that was supposed to arrive the day after radio broadcasts would humiliate Chamberlain, such that Chamberlain had no idea that Adolf was just dancing all over him and saying, "Of course, I'm so sorry. I've been a bad little boy. I won't do that again. I'll change." And the difficulty of dealing with someone who is a truly abusive, violent mind. It's not easy. And it doesn't just take one person in one room or 300 people in one room. Someone who coaxes every moment to bring more and more conquest and power to themselves at the expense of other people is a storm. It's a constant betrayal of everyone around him. And he and the people who have come in through this breach of normalized lying and crime are identifying themselves. And that is a benefit to humanity, because we can see these are people, amongst many other people in the rest of society who also need help. But these are people who are definitely calling out with words of violence, or calling out to be a part of a movement sowing violence, sowing Christian nationalism, sowing death camps, mass exterminations, mass deportations, and sowing a Stepford reality of enslaving women and indoctrinating children into white supremacist patriarchal terrorism. We already are seeing genocide of trans people in America, certainly in Florida and elsewhere. And the escalation of that is just one of the outcomes, including, again, the things we're being distracted from. Pick any number of things that we need to be working on right now. We need to work on fostering the resurgence of monarch butterflies today. We cannot be distracted by the violent threats of people who should actually just simply be brought to therapy and to help, or boundaries, because you don't, Kevin Roberts, get to sow and threaten bloody war and say you can avoid blood by just getting out of our way. You don't get to do that here. It's funny that the people who create boogeymen of that kind of thing are the ones who actually end up threatening it. The only ones who end up threatening it are the same poison wool blankets, crystal knocking, nonsense Ku Klux cocks that the Heritage Foundation and Stephen Miller, better known as M, that this band of white supremacist, patriarchal terrorist cowards and thugs do mean to coerce power that will do massive violence. We are at a stage where cracks can be formed. In the same way that we could say we're not going to have dungeons of punishment anymore, that we're not going to hold on to archaic old laws that people can weaponize. We're going to actually process what's happened and be accountable for things like calling people, some people, 3/5 of a person, and what that means, what that meant, and what continuing to profit from things that are aligned with that, what kind of sickness we're still connected to. Cowards and criminals would take us back or hold us from moving forward. And someone who tells us for the first time, literally, I will keep you in suspense. I won't follow the rules. I won't obey the will of the voters. And if you tell me I'm president, but now this time you voted against me, I'll tell you at the time if I want to be president then. We submitted. It was 8 years ago. We submitted. We have to see that he has taken permission and that we have to take it back. Our self-respect is in the dirt, and none of us deserve to be talked to like this. None of us deserve to have our neighbors threatened. None of us deserve to be pitted against one another by systems that could instead help us and find different ways to help people who need better help than a bus shelter as their last chance at survival or shelter. We are not here to be farmed, and we're not here to be pitted against one another to forget that there are systems making these capture pools. And the forces of Christian nationalism, this outright betrayal of Jesus Christ. It would be so simple, really. Because people who see the actual sin and terrorism and wrong, antichrist wrong, of criminalizing homelessness, especially if what that means is you are criminalizing the people who are experiencing homelessness. This is an institutionalization of an antichrist world by people saying they're bearing the banner of Christ. It is a full flip of insanity, a full projection. You may as well make Christ RoboCop. And we're not just about Christ in America, we're about everyone. And while I was raised in a liberal Catholic church, I don't take the kindness and care and respect that I have for Christ's message into religiosity. I take it into practice. And I just wonder why we can't meet in between. And instead of saying we're going to wreck our American democratic republic by destroying a separation of church and state, instead of doing that, what if we just met in the middle at let's act like Christ asked that we act? Because treating our neighbor with the love with which we would treat ourselves, to love our neighbor as we would love ourselves, would mean that we do show up at the encampment and by the thousands talk to the police and say, you know what, we're going to find another solution today. We're not going to clear these people and their belongings into a dumpster. We're going to find a better way. No, ultimately our addiction is not to fentanyl or to crack. We have an addiction to punishment. We have an addiction to saying, oh no, they don't want help, without finding out how many people in the shelters are actually also predating on the people they're supposed to serve, potentially. Not that there's anything wrong with shelters above any other part of society, but there's no way for someone to know what kind of cracks there are or what kinds of limitations trauma creates or disabilities create. Once privilege buckles or is shown to not be there, we are living in a system that asks us to be jailers and guards and executioners. and criminalizing homelessness is this sadly corrupt Confederate sleeper cell controlled Supreme Court truly making citizens a force of brown shirt Gestapo like malice to target one another. That in the same cannibalistic way that J.D. Vance and Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene, or Marguerite Trader Greed, or how do you say her name? Marguerite Trader Greed. One of those. The perfect Antichrist screech of Stephen Miller or Alex Jones or Tucker Carlson. An absolute abominable screech of pure, distracting, mechanized hoax and hate. The point is not to be terrified. The point is to say, we need to really take care of one another and those of us who can assemble executive function enough and focus it on seeing the vectors. We have to stop saying he wouldn't do that. We have to stop saying Project 2025 wouldn't do that. We can't say he wouldn't do that anymore. We never should have said he wouldn't do that. It's insane to look at someone who has no empathy telling us something horrible and looking into their face and seeing them not blench for a second, no blush, no sign at all that they feel shame. In fact, we maybe see a little bit of a gleam of a smile and they say, oh, I don't want to say afraid, but and we realize actually, wow, he's doing mammoth work right now to hold himself back from licking his lips. These are the great moments for him. It's trumping things. It's transcending and defiling something. Someone paints a painting for him. A child gives up going to college so that he can buy the materials to make a sculpture. And Trump says, thank you. And has it destroyed on film and says it's going to be immortal now forever right in front of the child for whatever reason. And the only reason is to defile and degrade and transcend that and claim that as a trophy. To claim the thing you just swallowed that's bigger than your body. And the barrel of swallowing that is a barrel you won't get back over. Probably anyway. You won't look back on how did I swallow that pill that's larger than my head. But you especially won't if after you've swallowed it he says, oh, that's where I put the poison anyway. You probably won't, your body won't break it down in time. You probably won't live 20 years. It's got at least 25 years on that pill before it even gets to you, so don't worry about it. But I see that's how much I trust you. I told you, and that's how much I did. Safekeeping, I knew it'd be safe with you. You just hold on to that little bit of poison for me and, we'll keep in touch. We have to hear what he's saying. He talked about being protection, about being a protector. That's protection. That's organized crime. The term organized crime was first used to talk about corruption within police, I believe, or within police or government. But that is what we're looking at. We are looking at organized crime that weaponizes bigotry and societal power. And it is not unlikely that Stephen Miller means to grab the White House for himself. We couldn't really hope for a more disgusting apocalypse. But the point is, we need to be cognizant as well that he is acting like this is a movie for a reason. Playing this, as he does with everything, like it's selling and primping and preening, and always simply putting the best face on something, selling the thing to get through that meeting so that at the end he's still on the stage, or the idea is still there, or they still have the contract ready to be signed next time. They're still on stage, he's still there nodding. While everybody else is screaming, he's smiling because he cannot really feel the same thing for some reason. And if the sound is down on that TV set, all we see is that he is still always there. Because no one is telling him no. And because somehow people still let him talk in front of microphones for half an hour at a time. As dangerous as that is, a figure who is, without being called it by his own vice presidential candidate running mate, he is truly worthy of concern on a level of Hitler, in part because Donald Trump most likely means to beat him. It's bad practice and idiotic and submissive to say he wouldn't do that. That's how predators get in. That's how they get a ring on your finger. That's how he's back banging on the door while we're still trying to figure out how to get a restraining order. We're trying to get a restraining order for a member of our family, and he comes back to the door and he's banging on the door and we're wondering why he's here. And it's strange that some of the people who are really concerned are now saying, well, gosh, he seems to have, I don't know, he said he's really loves you, and he's getting angry about marriage interference. All this marriage interference, you're talking about important that, we have a nation of, we don't have so many kids these days. I mean, come on. You're going to conduct marriage interference against this wonderful man? Ignore the piss and the shit on and the blood on his trousers from the last time he was here. Ignore that he went and sang a song with the people that helped him break in and assault you here. Ignore that he's saying he didn't do anything wrong. Ignore that he's got the song playing in bars around the world. A confession of allegiance. He has confessed by singing with these people that he meant to do it. He either meant to do it or is so incompetent that he doesn't realize he can be held to account. But he will ride either vector all the way. He will ride the possible existence of any other musical chair forever. It simply is about a boundary. We are dealing with exponential corruption, enabling massive distortions in the field of reality to simply dovetail. And 8 years is a long time. It means that there are people now voting who don't remember that 15 years ago, talking about a threat to democracy was not happening while we were chewing through tent poles, while we were looking at stacked up tent poles being carted off to be burned. We're dealing with terrorism, with brown shirts entrenching further terrorism. What else is it to tell women that they will be controlled? It is an attack. It has been over 8 years. It is a terroristic attack. It has been for over 8 years. It has never been safe to say he wouldn't do that. It has never been safe to say he wouldn't do that. Never. Sadly. People like Stephen Miller, like M, people like M and Donald Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene don't necessarily rest or celebrate in the same way as a lot of us. They have alacrity to do damage. Kevin Roberts has alacrity to do damage. Kevin Roberts has shown deeply psychopathic behavior. Kevin Roberts was aggressively and terroristically and lethally violent to the pets of his neighbor. These are people who need boundaries in healthcare and not being enabled. Britney Spears is not the one who needs a conservatorship. Elon Musk probably does need a conservatorship. Kevin Roberts probably does need some kind of assistance to unbuckle from the massive structure of terrorism he is trying to pilot right now. Because no matter how much money you have, if you're stepping into the street, calling for havoc and using Nazi dog whistles, if you're stepping into the street with that, you're asking for therapy or jail or something that serves those needs of society being safe, including the offender or victim wielding the weapon. So how do we do that? How do we show up? How do we show up right now and apprehend? Good golly, I still haven't made that coffee. Yes, he would make that coffee. Yes, Tim would make that coffee right now. Maybe I should have let the sound of the ocean around Burgles making their way wherever Burgles is right now. I haven't seen Burgles around, not actually in that apparition form floating around the space lately, but I know Burgles is still on the way. That's not all that's to be continued. Burgles, of course, is, I would say, trying to do some ending of things, some non-continuation. But we are a republic, a democratic republic, hoping to continue, to be continued. All right. You can make coffee. You really can. You actually can do it. It's going to work. Yes. Oh, yes. Where is it? It's right here. Is that it? We really do need to find meditation and calm, the ability to resource whatever it is in us that lets us calm down and see and feel, stretch out with our feelings to recognize what's happening, because the kind prehension can be our answer to the Great Depression. The kind prehension of seeing Trump's 2025 and other nefarities, even in ourselves, and helping humanity to parity, to one piece. There really can and should and ought to be one piece that we all can abide by, and that promises and yields for and loves all of us. Yes, maybe, possibly. And if that such thing or something like that might not be possible, I do actually care. And why wouldn't anyone care about being able to create systems and society and neighborhood to foster human kindness and in ways that absolutely echo the new Colossus? I think the kind prehension is where it's at. Next on a show that's all about what's on next. It's coffee times. Oh yes, that's what we were going to do. Music. I'm going to play something. I'm going to press play, and something is going to play while I grind a few beans. I hope you are well. It is the kind prehension that we're fostering. What does that mean? You tell me. What is the kind prehension? What should the kind prehension be? How do we best go about piloting the kind prehension? All right. Yes, like that. We are the reality distortion fielding. But some part of me wanted to apparently turn that off. Am I flirting with myself and us? I don't know. Do I want to start that over? I may hold off on that one now. I didn't intend to stop it, but I was thinking it might be good to sing it instead later. This, therefore, is something else. sentient phrase carry it. We are not let's wake if we don't wake. Imagination Inc. Pretend come king to play today for your sake. Pretend that kindness came in stakes to make. Remain the kindness you became when you came to play. Imagination may be gay. Pray to penitence today. Unless we are prey. Imagination may be game to play if you are game. Imagination may be game. This is the mindless madness contained, activating aid be named. Radio science brain. We won't be known, maybe by fame, by name, but we'll be known. Radio science brain. You are the mindness you raised. You are the adulatron. You are the adulatron. You are the renovation of love's imagination. Contain this contagious container from pain. Radio science brain liaise come came to play today. Remain always the agent of change. Mind made the same into aid. Radio science brain. It's true that actually it's real. That happened. It's different every time. And in that particular recording, there are a number of components that come up often when I go through Radio Science Brain. But it is different every time. And sometimes it's entirely innovation, or at least there aren't trends of phrase that really appeared in any other version. But at least I know it's one of those. At any rate, that was one recorded in the last year, I think about a year ago. And now, coffee is brewing. What about our ability to move past being flummoxed or terrified or kerfuffed? When there is a shocking boundary violation, how do we move past laughing at the complex, crazy, terroristic absurdity of it to action, to claim or reclaim boundaries. Because being at a Sudetenland moment for multiple years does need boundary work. We have been appeasing him, and that remains a problem. Well, here we are, at any rate. Back to it, because, again, coffee is brewing. And good gracious, good gravy, I think time and occasion are assembling. I think the comprehension can happen. I think awareness that something is around us in terms of normalized lies, and that it changes behavior patterns. To see people scared to do things that are within their remit. To see doctors scared to provide medical care to save people's lives because violent people write terrorism and enslaving women into laws. We're dealing with people willing to do harm and willing to do a lot of homework to put that harm into writing and fold it in to algorithms. There's all kinds of reason for hope. And we have to be aware that we are within permuting hokum. And to be aware of normalized things that have happened, that we actually shouldn't accept another Trothan plop or tweaks from Donald Trump that has any ridiculous language and insults in it at all. We shouldn't have anything to say to him except to more or less slap him across the face with, "We have no attention for you." If you are doing as you're doing, if you're essentially loading a statement with nothing and protecting that nothing and the shame of that nothing with lie and defiling, degrading insult after the next, we're going to eventually finally see it. And before it's too late to do something about it, we're going to treat this person like the bad faith actor they are. To be continued, as in not like somebody else is going to do it, but we are making sure right now that this republic, this democratic republic, is going to be continued. What is next? What is next? Because the hokum spreads in part with us watching, and with someone saying, yeah, he is right to do that. He is smart to do that. You know, why? If he can get away with it, he's stupid if he doesn't. If this doctor can have people sign away the right to be able to eat part of them if he gets peckish during the surgery, just because he's like, look, if I really if I need to do something bad, maybe that's just the cost of doing business, just give me power to do whatever I want. Or else I can't save you if you won't let me hurt you. The insanity of testing how bad we are broken from even talking about the existence of climate change with someone who is about to stop our ability to ever stop its course. We're dealing with apocalypse looking at us. Someone who will steer it. Have we forgotten what every single hour of his presidency the first time was? That needs to be the entirety of it. We cannot have him back again. It will only get worse and worse and more escalated. And this time it won't be just 1 million people murdered by his 6-week dosing of Americans with COVID, plus all of the other insanity. We will have millions more. And we will have a generation sowing, normalizing a Stepford wife, terroristic, white supremacist, patriarchal terrorist society. We're barely going to be able to rescue the vandalism that has been done to the Supreme Court and jurisprudence. We will barely be able to rescue that if it goes further. We're lost. We will never be able to. We will see decimation to not just a human habitat, but through it we will lose some of the thread of even our birthright and DNA. We need to stand not just a little bit, but with everything that we have for fact and truth and honor. There is nothing wrong with a virtue signal unless someone has made you fear that virtue is not safe. There's nothing wrong with a virtue signal unless when you get to the source of the signal, virtue is not there. If there is not virtue, and if it is not being fostered and built, then it is where? League. We must build this love, this core of the new Colossus that Emma Lazarus spoke to. We're all here, being terrorized and degraded and defiled and hunted and scapegoated breaks down our executive functions so that we forget the incredible ideas and connections and community that we have. We forget our abilities. We forget that there are people who do believe in us and wanted us to show up when our next great idea came. We have community. We have people who, if we need to have redemption and work to do it, will also see us then. Maybe not people we knew before. But the world can continue. Democracy is not just going to show up, though. We have to be the how this to be continued happens. How does this happen? We need to help Kevin Roberts and people doing this incredible racist scapegoating to jail or to therapy. When J.D. Vance says some apocalyptic lie, not only do we shut it down, but we also do not allow our leaders or journalists to refer to a story and keep repeating the lie when the story there is about a racist attack or a xenophobic attack or a homophobic attack. These kinds of scapegoating, lynch mob, brain syndrome stoking attacks. That is the threat that we face. Once it's clear, especially once it's clear, but even beforehand, when there are simply claims of something in a community, we shouldn't be repeating it. But certainly once it's been proven that we're dealing with false claims and scapegoating, that should be like an Amber Alert thing. We should just know that once we understand there's mud in the water there, or that there's been a flip of reality and someone has been spreading dangerous falsehoods, you don't step on to that playing field to play games or to try to profit from lies. We should have much higher standards for how seriously that is stewarded, how seriously that is considered, and how damaging that, and trying to play off people again about, oh, well, maybe I. Because the thing essentially in Trump saying he has the right, he has absolute authority and immunity. I mean, absolute authority includes immunity, one would think, really. But to say that, it just means decimation. There's no reason to ask for that. There's no reason to have that, except to use it for ill. It's like Governor Tim Walz says, you don't draw up plans you don't intend to use. And why would you take the incredible risk of the shocking boundary violation of asserting the need to be a supervillain in order to be a great leader? We are in danger, if for no other reason, because there are that many people in the Supreme Court who are that blind or corrupted by white supremacist patriarchal terror and corruption. It is truly, truly existential in terms of safety and our ability to steward our habitat and steward democracy. We're being distracted from the most basic care of ourselves and of our nation and of the gift of creation. That we're here in this majestic world, treating this world like garbage and being indoctrinated into treating one another like garbage, while we claim to do it in the name of a savior we would shoot at the border. Coffee is just about ready. And then what happens? Indeed it is. The mystery. Font. Mystery. Font. Mystery. Font. It's true. It's true. We can do anything. We are majestic creatures. Our brains can do marvelous things. Part of how amazing our brains are is part of how easily they can be turned against us or turned to betray us. The falsehood will tell you intuition's faulty. The falsehood will tell you facts aren't factual, actually. And betrayal trauma is difficult because, well, the whole point is you are being harmed by someone you are dependent upon. And so not having press conferences or not hearing from mom and dad or not getting feedback from your boss when it really is important, the mind starts to create their own system of trying to figure out what's what, and shame is part of the spectrum that awakens. If we're seeing toxic withholding or shaping people into rocks in hard places that serve the tasks needed by the powered. Isn't the throne supposed to be for need? Isn't it true that Gordon Gekko was wrong? You can fool people for a little bit with shocking boundary violations, but Gordon Gekko was wrong when he said greed is good. He was wrong. Greed is not good. Greed doesn't work. Need suffices. Need is enough. And really, for executive function, need is more than enough. Need is need met. And need met is need well met. And we have far, 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 far more than enough to easily suffice for need well met for everyone. The only reason we don't do it, especially because it would be less expensive, is because we are addicted to punishment. We're not addicted to fentanyl. We're addicted to being the ones who say no. Those people don't have valid excuses. Their sleeping outside is one of their crimes. If they don't have a home, they must be bad. As opposed to saying, we are sorry that we have let you down. We are sorry that we've let you down. What do you need? Universal basic income. What do you need? Training. Oh yes, but not training like that. I have an issue with sensory issues. Okay, cool. Let's find this. Let's find something else. We are supple to how need finds being met. Not throwing an application and saying, okay, you given the application, that's where you can apply. That's the way you get help. That's it. Get out of the hole through that keyhole. Don't call me again. Like, need met. Like if your mother called you from the street and said, I'm in an encampment in North Minneapolis and I think they're taking my things. They say they won't even tell me if they're going to write it down. If they put them in a dumpster, I don't think I'm going to know what happens to the rest of my photographs. need met is need met for you or your mother or your family, for your partner, for your child, for you, or for you not feeling good and being sick and with one of your eyes hurt. Cracks open up. And the point is, the new Colossus is all of us. It is all of us. And part of that all of us is that when we are not running for our lives, our executive function does have a greater chance to return, and our memories and our deeper, calmer, more resonant, true selves with our ideas and our songs and our books or our inventions or the crazy idea for a business or the memory of some friends from the old country who were coming to live here who wanted to start something up, and you don't remember for 2 or 3 years because you didn't get away from a bad situation. And when you do, you realize, I should have got away from that earlier. But when you do, you realize, I can see again. When we say no to Donald Trump and create boundaries of steel to stop behavior that simply pollutes with toxin of dehumanizing, defiling, normalizing of degrading people. It is the normalizing of degrading people and the trumping and transcending of everyone, of any little thing that is a kindness can be broken and ruptured. And because this person did it who doesn't feel empathy or shame in the same way that we do, they just rupture it and triumph over it. His triumph is just a hi, Trump. Like, he's not telling you his name. He's telling us what he does. Us getting tired of winning is us getting tired of him winning, which means crushing. Which that doesn't mean winning. That doesn't mean he slam dunked. It means he used a bazooka to take out the team and then stood in a bloody court doing granny shots and making them one after the other and smiling and laughing and making a film of people mopping up the floor and saying, I'll make a movie out of this one day. We are dealing with a dark triad predator who targeted Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss. Choose one thing, and don't let go of it. But choose one thing that you can drill down on, that you can say, well, if this is actually not sorted out, it's enough of a problem that I need to look deeper into this. We have to do something. Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss are potentially the best example there is, because on what planet is it legitimate to allow someone to run at all who has targeted American citizens? Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss are American citizens targeted by a sitting president and the so-called America's mayor who helped him and was found guilty to the tune of millions of dollars. It is a miracle that those kind election workers are still alive. But they, and really no one, is safe. Not only has Donald Trump not been found guilty of the crimes that Rudy Giuliani was doing for him, the Supreme Court, I don't know if they even referenced in their immunity decision the ongoing terrorism against Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss. But why would you not? How could they possibly terrorize all of humanity by not referencing and saying, I mean, they affirm, how dare they? How dare the Supreme Court of the United States affirm that Donald Trump was justified to terrorize and try to sow murder upon Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, to destroy them, to destroy their connection to community, to destroy their reputation and their lives? How is it acceptable that he shows up on any television show, on any public event? How is it acceptable that he is a part of society at all? He is a maniac who has raped people, including children. He gutted our ability for women to be able to protect themselves. He's saying doctors are murdering babies as a distraction. This is poppycock. We are under attack. We have been frozen here with this same threat. But 8 years ago, some of the threats were still under a veil. Some of the threats were still hidden below the cowl of the falsehood, such that we could not see, well, he wouldn't do that. But let's look at one of the most ridiculous lies that he is repeating over and over and over again. And again, it is multi-pronged because it is not just a horrific lie. He doesn't just lie. He finds lies that terrorize because they are shocking boundary violations. It is a shocking boundary violation to say that everybody wanted abortion to go back to the states. To repeat that is a shocking boundary violation. That is a decimating attack on us as human beings. That is a decimating attack on human decency. There is no possible way, repeatedly, as if it's just like anything is just a sale and he's just selling whatever reality he wants. Repeatedly, he has made the claim, simply a claim. He has repeatedly made the batshit claim that everybody wanted abortion to be sent back to the states. It's categorically false. But we have submitted to just moving on and not drilling down on these things, which protects the matrix of all of his lies. If we continue again and again and again to let him do this again and again and again, we allow him to keep us in suspense. Before the debate with Kamala, he said, "Oh, I won by a whisker," only then to pull back that little hope he gave us of like he's not a complete psychopath maybe, or is there any light in there? Only to once again hold up this white supremacist, white fire flame of pure malevolence and say, "Oh, I was being sarcastic. Of course, I won in 2020. That is demonic. That is truly reprehensible, and it is terrorism. Because if the person who either did January 6th on purpose or by accident is disqualified for either of those, and somehow, and we didn't, but somehow he's allowed back, and we say, well, okay, but question, and this is just kind of a new situation here. We're not saying you're coming back for any other reasons having to do with before, but this time, what's up? There's nothing. There's nothing coming with him that isn't all of the projections he's thrown on his boogeymen. He is bringing us rapists. He is bringing us crime. He is bringing us a loss of connection to habitat. He said he wanted to be our protector. You don't say you want to be someone's retribution and then say you want to be their protector. And people who wander in and say, I'm going to be your protector, and don't make it too big a deal of it. I'm going to be your protector. As if, yeah, you should thank me. That's called a protection racket. And we have to have the courage to recognize that just because he's acting tough doesn't mean he knows what he's doing. It doesn't mean that he knows that he's doing more than anyone else. In fact, it means he's without a clue. All he has is fear itself. Fear itself, and power gives him the element of a surprise. The presidency is just getting to look at everything first. Because the presidency presides. The president presides over the meeting, over the government, over the nation. You're the chief executive presiding over things. Just an official, but the official. What are we dealing with here? Because this is not a normal time. We need to recognize that something like an attack on Arlington Cemetery, which is exactly what happened. An attack on Arlington Cemetery meant to symbolically gut and defile our nation and people who have served, that we do not see that as a shocking boundary violation that must be met with boundaries of steel. Someone pushed back across the boundary, which shuts and seals forever. We need to stop this attrition and recognize that we have submitted. All of these shocking boundary violations need to be made back. We need to say, no, you don't talk about immigrants to this country that way. You don't talk to anyone that way. No. No, you don't have that deference anymore because we know you're a liar. We have to grow the courage that we would want to see in one another. We have to grow it in ourselves. We have submitted. But it's not over. How do I know? I'm still having episodes. Like right now. I'm actually having an episode right now of Mystery Font 42 Ope Intuit, because when I see shocking boundary violations, I want to talk about it so that we notice and apprehend this. Coffee. Coffee, 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 coffee. It's time to finally drink the coffee I made. Holy cats, it's gonna be great. I bet. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Excellent. Truly, truly excellent.
I light a candle to our love. In love our problems disappear. But all in all we soon discover that one-on-one is all we long to hear. All around the world, little children being born to the world. Got to give them all we can till the war is won. When will the work be done? Help them to learn songs of joy instead of burn, baby burn. Won't you show them how to play the pipes of peace? Play the pipes of peace. Help me to learn songs of joy instead of burn, baby burn. Won't you show me how to play the pipes of peace? Play the pipes of peace. What do you say? What do you say? What do you say? Will the human race be run in a day? Or will someone save this planet we're laying on? Is it the only one? Help them to see that the people here are like you and me. Won't you show them how to play the pipes of peace? Play the pipes of peace. I light a candle to our love. In love our problems disappear. But all in all we soon discover that the one-on-one is all we long to hear.
That one's gonna be a little unfucking solid.
Okay.
So this is nuts. This is going to be nuts. This is gonna be nuts. This is gonna be super nuts.
By which I'm sure that I meant new under the sun. We are here entering within the mindness of the mystery font. And good gracious, thus. Good gray already, I might say, again and again. Good gosh and golly. Holy cats. But what? Yes. It is I. I am here at the font. I am Tim. That's me. Am I? Oh, no, not there. Wake up, sweet little friend. Are you with me? Coming? Maybe? Sometime soon. Well, for the moment, it's us here. We are seeing more of this permuting hokum, which is admittedly kind of preponderant. But here at the font, we were able to sometimes isolate. And this substrate is showing essentially the effect that it actually can hold almost like a binding, it's a very aggressive kind of strip or field, this what is making up the rupture that's around us, that we're experiencing, that actual permeating hokum that this is what we're seeing conducted, and it is as much a devastating force as the havoc it provokes. It is that. We don't necessarily see it in this shape, but I find it validating to recognize that we are in fact dealing with a fog of stripes and shapes and knives and Mobiuses that are particular to the situations of every one person, except that we are all weaponized this way against one another. The falsehood is that we cannot face what's been done. The falsehood is that someone should be punished. The falsehood is that there is any kindness in punishing people who need sleep and shelter for not having it. And worse, exponentially removing their ability to foster that. Imagine if every day you had to push the rock back up to the top of the hill, but today you had to do it hungrier. Today you had to do it with legs that were a foot shorter. Tomorrow you had to do it with legs that were another foot shorter. Tomorrow you had to do it with only arms. No one is trying to ask for unfair situations except for the people raking in massive, massive criminal amounts. While massive criminal amounts that are fractional of that would save the world and give us basic human need met. Would give us the availability to break out of constant rupture of executive function and generations of geniuses who have been in communities targeted. We will never know just what we're holding back unless we stop holding it back. And that means acting like there's something in there, in all of these people and the children of people from whom we have not seen anything because we've been kneeling on their necks. The new Colossus is not just nice words. We all have capacity for great genius. And it's not something to farm. It's something to depend on and foster so that it's here in steady sustainability. But remember, we're soaking in it. We're soaking in hokum. We're soaking in hokum. And being cognizant that not only are people all dealing with their own things and everyone is carrying their own shames and sorrows and deep worries, but the truly, truly decimating nature of rupturing trust that's caused around the countless littered calling cards of the falsehood again and again and again and again, that I just want to say, will we ever know who has donned the falsehood? Is it possible to understand who? Certainly multiple presidents have called for the identity or any information leading to the identity of the falsehood. I can remember such things going back many a yesteryear, and those yester of those years, and those yesteryear yearlings. Well, I remember one of those people said, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself." And we are looking at fear itself. That is what we're dealing with here. We are absolutely dealing with someone who has weaponized fear itself. It's exactly what it is. And right here at the mystery font, I want to offer more of a different result, say, a different analysis that I'm seeing. Because I still see a lot of laughing at the absurdity of what he says, and a lot of dismissing what he says as doesn't he realize, or I can't believe he. And it's far worse. It's far worse where he's going and whether or not he means to do it. It's all far worse in terms of he will keep going to deeper and deeper bottoms. He will keep digging up people's families' plots and filling them with their children's entire graduating class. He means to conquer. He means to trump things. He means to marry Roseanne Barr and then have her ground up and made into pizza. And then tell everyone about it and not apologize and say she liked it. And then go to church. And if anyone says anything about it, say, "You're a terrible person. Imagine how rude you are." I can't believe anyone would be so rude. It's not going to get better. Dark triad predators don't get better when empowered with more power as a result of abuse.
What the? Oh, well, I see there now then. I think. I really don't know. I really don't know at all. Maybe that's good. Maybe. We sure are having some strange technical moments right now. Is this one working? Well, we're finding out. We're gonna find out. This camera still works. Hopefully it does. But in any case. Ah, yes. Perfect. There you are, mindfulness. Good to see you. Good to see you. It's really just a demonstration of how hokum actually can even take on physical form, more or less. But it certainly is conductive and conducive and conducted. Let's see if we can find a bit of footage of earlier findings of the falsehood that demonstrate just such a capacity. Ah, yes. Of course. Aha, I see. Right. Well, so... Yes. Like that. No. Right. So, we would see something. Yes. Something like this. Exactly like that. Yes. Oh. That. Yes. Something like that. As this field of hokum is woven around us, I worry that we are so taken with it, and really that it becomes fascinating. That the willingness to continue to utilize this hokum and do this terrible damage to people, that we are just kind of potentially listening to the grooming of this person who is treating this like a movie because that serves them, and that we marvel at just how good a Hannibal Lecter he is, just how great he is in the role. But isn't that really a bad sign? If what we're seeing is someone behaving this way, making jokes about it, then saying he means it, and a constant normalization and escalation of dehumanizing, shocking boundary violations. He gave us a window, a moment of a couple of days before that debate where we thought maybe he was done with the deadly election lie that started insurrection. But really, that should be a condition. If he can't say that he was wrong, then he shouldn't be allowed to come back. But we are so afraid to even raise any question because M and his band of ridiculous Ku Klux cocks are so good at just weaponizing vicious hatred against others, weaponizing vicious punishment, that Trump feels an impenetrability because we become the diseases that help Monty Burns stay protected. We have to stop being willing to being part of the field of protection, because if we're accepting protection, we become part of the mob. We become part of his mob. You are in an abusive relationship. Shocking boundary violations are one common grooming tactic of a narcissist or dark triad personality. If someone in your life points into a camera knowing you'll be looking at the view screen and pulls their finger like a trigger, looking into your eyes, saying, I could shoot someone in the street and not lose anyone, it is a good indicator of a bad situation. You are in an abusive relationship. Who has leveraged and climbed upon a fog of falsehood? Who has donned the falsehood? Who is the falsehood? Relationship. You are in an abusive relationship. Shocking boundary violations are one common grooming tactic of a narcissist or dark triad personality. If someone in your life points into a camera knowing you'll be looking at the view screen and pulls their finger like a trigger, looking into your eyes, saying, I could shoot someone in the street and not lose anyone, it is a good indicator of a bad situation. You are in an abusive relationship. Who has leveraged and climbed upon a fog of falsehood? Who has donned the falsehood? Who is the falsehood?
Sets the fear of separation. 6, the fear of separation.
we are all being terrorized by Trump's Project 2025. And it is incredibly dangerous to go another minute without calling all of those people to therapy or jail. It is categorically insane. They need therapy or accountability or both. We have all that we need if we just stop targeting human need and sate human need. If we treat human need like it's human and like it's need, we can greatly simplify everything. It's not going to be utopia, but it will be slightly better. It will be slightly better. And when people are working to keep one another honest, more than working to normalize how and when we can lie all the time and everywhere, when we're working to keep one another honest, it fosters things too, and those can be good things. Trust happened somewhere. I somehow lived in a world where I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid based on you are in an abusive relationship. Where I wasn't afraid. Shocking boundary violations based on threats of what was coming. Common grooming tactic of a narcissist. I think I need to find a different copy of... That is shorter, huh? There we go. So, that's the one we actually need there. Yes. So.
Sets the fear of separation. 6, the fear of separation. He didn't mean to cause a panic. He didn't mean to cause a panic. Prepare people, get ready.
I made a speech. I looked out. The field was, it looked like 1.5 million people. They showed a field where there were practically nobody standing there.
The new White House press secretary, Sean Spicer, gave his first press briefing. He was also highly critical of some media organisations of the way he felt they had misrepresented the number of people who'd attended Friday's inauguration ceremony.
No one had numbers because the National Park Service, which controls the National Mall, does not put any out. This was the largest audience to ever witness an inauguration, period, both in person and around the globe.
It's
It
still
does
out
not
there.
excuse, and you did not answer the question.
I did answer your
No, you
question.
did not. You did
Yes,
not
I
answer
did.
the question of why the president asked the White House press secretary to come out in front of the podium for the first time and utter a falsehood. Why did he do that? It undermines the credibility of the entire White House press office
No, it
on day
doesn't.
one.
Don't be so overly dramatic about it, Chuck. You're saying it's a falsehood, and they're giving Sean Spicer, our press secretary, gave alternative facts to that. But the point
Wait a
remains.
minute. Alternative.
This was the largest ever.
So, to my favorite people in the world, the seniors. I'm a senior. I know you don't know that. Nobody knows that. Maybe you don't have to tell them, but I'm a senior. We are making tremendous progress with this horrible disease that was sent over by China. China will pay a big price for what they did to the world and to us. But we have medicines right now, and I call them a cure. I went into the hospital a week ago. I was very sick. And I took this medicine, and it was incredible. It was incredible. I could have walked out the following day, sooner. It was incredible the impact it had. And we're going to make that and others that are similar to it, almost identical, we're going to make them available immediately. We have an emergency use authorization that I want to get signed immediately. The FDA has moved at a level that they've never moved before. Things that would take 2, 3, 4 years are taking a matter of weeks or even sooner than that. And that's because of me. We're taking care of our seniors. You're not vulnerable, but they like to say the vulnerable, but you're the least vulnerable. But for this one thing, you are vulnerable, and so am I. But I want you to get the same care that I got. I got incredible care at Walter Reed, incredible doctors, and this medicine in particular, one medicine was unbelievable. You're going to get the same medicine. You're going to get it free, no charge. And we're going to get it to you soon. And the nice part is it's made by a number of companies. It's totally safe, but it's powerful against this disease. So we're going to get it out to you. We're going to take care of our seniors, all free. And I just want to thank you. And what we've gone through as a country is a horrible thing. My opponent, as you know, he talks, but he never did anything in 47 years. I did more in 47 months than he did in 47 years. He just talks. It's the same old thing. If it were up to him, you wouldn't have this, you wouldn't have anywhere near it for years. They wouldn't even be talking about anything like this. He had his chance with H1N1 swine flu, and it was one of the great disasters. He didn't know what he was doing. But I do know what I'm doing. And the seniors are going to be taken care of, and then everybody's going to be taken care of. And it's coming out really fast. So thank you very much. We love you. We love America.
Got to learn to fly.
And having a good relationship with Russia is a good thing, not a bad thing.
You've said you have no investments in Russia, but do you owe any money to Russian individuals and institutions?
No.
None.
The primary thing I did with Russia, I bought a house in Palm Beach at a bankruptcy. It was a bankrupt, person. I bought it from the banks. I bought it for about $40 million. I sold it for $100 million to a Russian. That was probably 5 years ago, and that was primarily it.
You partnered
now,
with
will I
Russians on the
sell?
Soho Grand. the
Will I
Toronto-
sell? Oh, many years ago. I don't think they're Russian. I think there were other people, but there were various partners. Will I sell condos to Russians on occasion? Probably. I mean, I do that. I have a lot of condos. I do that. But I have no relationship to Russia whatsoever.
No debts.
No debts. I have very little debt to anybody. I don't need debt. You know, it's very interesting. I'm so liquid, I don't need debt. And if I need debt, if I want debt, I can get it from banks in New York City very easily.
You know where I'm going to take this next. Americans could be assured on that if they saw your tax returns.
My tax returns are very simple. They're under a minor audit, routine audit, as they have been for many years. Every year I get audited. Now, I don't know if you get audited, but I have friends
I've
that are
been
very
audited.
wealthy that never have been audited. I say, do you get audited? I get audited every year. I'm under a routine audit, like routine. And I have been for years, every year.
But there are
If
several
it's
years that
finished,
are no longer
George,
under
here's
that
very
audit.
simple. Yeah, but they're all linked. It's called the link. It's very simple. If my audit's finished, that's great. Now, I have to tell you, I watched Mitt Romney 4 years ago. He waited till September to give him, just before the election. They made him look so bad. It was so unfair. I actually think he didn't lose because of the 47%. I think he lost because of a couple of really minor items in a tax return where he did nothing wrong. So it is unfair. But I will say, when I'm finished with the audit, I'll do it. And if
Richard
that's
Nixon
before the
released his,
election,
even though his were under audit.
don't use Richard Nixon as necessarily the guide, okay? I mean, you know, it's an interesting person to use, but don't use it.
The end result of this, though, is that our opponents, the media, and the whole world will soon see, as we begin to take further actions, that the powers of the president to protect our country are very substantial and will not be questioned. The end result of this, though, is that our opponents, the media, and the whole world will soon see, as we begin to take further actions, that the powers of the president to protect our country are very substantial and will not be questioned.
later on in life.
So, but
this
Jim,
whole notion of, well, they could learn, they have to learn English before they get to the United States. Are we just going to bring in people from Great Britain and Australia?
Jim, it's actually, I have to honestly say, I am shocked at your statement that you think that only people from Great Britain and Australia would know English. It's actually, it reveals your cosmopolitan bias to a shocking degree that in your mind, no, this is an amazing moment. This is an amazing moment that you think only people from Great Britain or Australia would speak English is so insulting to millions of hardworking immigrants who do speak English from all over the world. Jim, have you honestly never met an immigrant from another country who speaks English outside of Great Britain and Australia? Is that your personal experience?
Of course there are people who come
But
to this
that's not what
country
you
from other
said,
parts of the
and
world.
it shows your cosmopolitan bias. And I just want to say,
It sounds like you're trying to engineer the
I just wanna
racial
say-
and ethnic flow of people into this country. through
Jim,
this
that is one of
policy.
the most outrageous, insulting, ignorant, and foolish things you've ever said. And for you, that's still a really, the notion that you think that this is a racist bill is so wrong and so insulting. Jim,
Let's all be aware. Let's all be aware that Stephen Miller, M, that M will not stop hurting children until we stop him. Peter Lorre played him well. And now that he is actually here, we need to stop M today. Because he's going to keep trying tomorrow. It's time to stop M. What if a siren had a song? Maybe a different kind of siren for a different kind of activity or a different kind of steward. A different kind of response or observer. Wouldn't something like an ice cream truck sounding ditty that we all knew, that talked about care, sound like something we should make a hole for so it could come through? I think so. I'm a public display of affection. And so, if you hear this song, I might be nearby. New under the sun. With gratitude to the great and dope fresh 8-bit genius who did that arrangement of Suicide is Painless on a Commodore 64, I think? On a Mac. It's so good. There we are. All right. That's right. That's right. We're here at the font. It is just a time, an evening. It is it's me here thinking about how I think we need to be ready to be more than fascinated. That we're not watching a movie, but that we're very suggestible. And Donald Trump is good at suggesting. He's very good at suggesting things for us to do and focus on and be distracted by. And be titillated or mesmerized by. But he can fascinate us past where our attention needs to focus if we aren't diligent. How do we focus on what we absolutely need to take care of when he is around? Because he will simply occupy space and preempt what we're supposed to be doing in any moment.
at a time when we really need to get information about something, he'll be asking crazy questions that are embarrassing. They're so uneducated and ignorant. We're both scrambling for our very sense of dignity that a leader of our country wouldn't know things that 5-year-olds know. We've just been in free fall. We've just been in free fall. And it's absolutely time. I think it's having some kind of definitely having some kind of a strange issue there with something cutting out on the camera. That's too bad. Well, maybe we're gonna take a pause here because I'm having some tech strangeness. It's all right. There we are. But I'm going to take some repair time here. Fun is how we know we're onto something. Live long and prosper. You are the resonation of love's imagination. And you're a neighbor. Love. Love to you. Love to you. And in working to find the kind prevention, trust, but verify.